All right, you're good to go.
Wait. Hi, Ambreen, can you hear me?
6 o'clock. Okay, I love it. I'll let them know. Good to see you guys.
Yes, I can. Steve.
Thank you. 1 second while I just get my technology going the way I want it to. 1 second.
I think you're muted.
Can you hear me? She should be able to hear me.
She might be muted.
No, but she said, can you hear me? Okay.
Oh.
So we are now recording. Just bear with me while I get this going and we'll start.
Sure.
Why am I not seeing her? Valerie.
Thank you guys for having me.
You hid all non-video participants.
Oh, there we go. All right, Ambreen, just give me 1 second here. We are just setting up the technology piece of this. And I think we're almost there. So can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Very good. I'm going to share my screen and that will allow me to start the presentation for you and for everybody else. Now, just
It's
show.
hidden on the other desktop. So let me just
Okay.
get it over to this one for you.
Yeah. That's one. Oh, okay. So this is, I'm sharing now.
Mhm.
How did you switch desktops?
It's 2 fingers, swipe left.
Okay. 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 All right. And am I on the screen?
No, but we can put you up there right now.
We're almost ready. 1 second.
5565. There you go.
All right. So thank you for your patience. Now we are going to start this class. And what we're going to be focusing today is on pest inspection reports. And my hope today is to share with you and anyone who watches this later, I want to share with you guys how to understand and read a pest inspection report. And the hope is that this will help you for when you're representing both sellers and buyers. So we're going to go through a pest inspection report and then I'll answer any questions and just sort of get a sense of how to manage, how to really make these things valuable for you and for your clients. So that's what we're going to do. Somebody else just came in, so I'm going to let them in the room so that they can appreciate this as well. So what we're doing today is we're going to start with a specific pest inspection report for a property that I listed some years ago. And this is from a company called HomeGuard. So there are a lot of companies that do pest inspections. Now, the first thing you need to know is that pest inspection companies must have a license, and all of their reports must have the same all of the reports all of the companies have to have the same format. What we're looking at on the screen right now is a cover page, just a cover page. But the reports are all going to have the same format, and that starts with the next page down. 1 second. Oops, too far. This is the first page of a typical pest inspection report. This is the first page. So it shows the property address at the top, and then it shows the name of the property owner. And then there's 4 different types of ways they will check a box, right? It's either a complete report, a limited report, a supplemental report, or a reinspection. Normally, when you are representing a buyer or seller and you order the report, you want a complete report. Sometimes there will be an issue where you are a seller representing a seller or buyer may choose to buy a limited report. Maybe you only want a report for a detached garage, for example. Sometimes you or your client will want a supplemental report. Maybe they came out and did a complete report and then they said, we need to look at some other things, or maybe you have them come back out and they do what is called a supplemental. And that is what that is. And then a reinspection is when they want to go look at something a second time. And these reports, as I said, they're all going to have the same basic format because they have to have a license number. And you'll see their registration number and license number at the top of the report as well over here. The first thing you'll see, then you'll have a description, what kind of property it is, and then you'll have what they found, one of five checkboxes for what they found at a very high level, right? At a very overview.
When did they?
So did they find termites? Because everybody is mostly concerned about termites. In this case, you'll see that they distinguish between subterranean termites and drywood termites. Subterranean termites live in the soil. Drywood termites actually live in the wood. And the way that homeowners have to treat, the way these companies have to treat and remediate for the different types of termites is different. In my experience, drywood termites are more expensive to remediate and involve tenting of the house, whereas subterranean termites, often you can deal with them just by spraying a toxic chemical. So if you're going to have termites, in my experience, you want the subterranean kind. They will also have a checkbox here for fungus or dry rot. Now, what are we talking about here? They're basically saying the wood is damaged. The wood is moisture damaged. When you see wood that is soft or damaged by water or moisture, it makes the wood soft, and that means little microscopic insects are rotting it away by eating it or digesting it is perhaps a better way to talk about it. And so that we call fungus or dry rot. Now, it can be as serious as having termites, but it is not the same thing. Sometimes they will talk about other findings, things that they learn about the property that are not directly related to wood destroying insects. And they will also make a classification for further inspection. Okay, further inspection. And that's something you don't usually want to see if you're representing a seller. And we'll get into that a little bit later.
I mean, I don't know, I guess.
Now, they give you a diagram, and they have they have three sections on the diagram. They have three sections on the diagram that are noted on the diagram. Section 1, Section 2, and unknown further inspection items. So it is so important for us as realtors to understand the distinction between these three sections. Section 1 items are active infestations, situations where there is actual termites, actual bugs eating on the wood, and there is actual damage to the wood, actual fungus, actual dry rot. There is existing damage that has been noted. That's called Section 1. Section 2 are conditions where there is not an active damage to the wood, but all of the conditions are ripe for there to be damage if you don't deal with it. Section 2 items are potentially very dangerous if they're not addressed. Now, the pest company will not, when you see a report, you'll often see in the confidential remarks of an MLS listing, only 3,000 of Section 1. But it's still very important for you as a listing agent or a buyer's agent to review the Section 2 items, because they could be an evidence of something that could be a problem in the future, even though there's no price on fixing it. There may not even be a price on fixing it right now. And you might want to consider Section 2 items to be maintenance, but it's more than maintenance, because it's like sometimes a very serious issue of preventative maintenance, right? And then the third thing you're going to see on these reports are items that are not Section 1 or Section 2, but are really being just pointed out that they saw in their observations, but it's not even really anything having to do with wood damage. And then finally, further inspection, items that we couldn't inspect this. We couldn't get into the attic. We couldn't get into the crawl space. We couldn't go into this closet because there was too much personal property, stuff like that, right? So if you're representing a seller, you don't want further inspection items. You want to, if you're going to, I mean, you don't want it if you're a buyer's agent either, but if you're listing your property for sale or listing a property for sale and you order a pest inspection, you want the inspector to be able to do their job. You want the inspector to be able to see everything they need to see. So if you have awareness that there's too much personal property and it's limiting access to a space, or if you know of a lock on a door that would be inhibiting the ability of the inspector to go look at that item, then in that case, you will want to work with your seller to remediate that. Or if you're in contract, work with the listing agent as the buyer's agent to fix that problem so that the inspector can do their job and inspect the whole property. So on the first page of the report, there'll be a map. The front of the house is at the bottom always. And then what's really cool nowadays is there's hyperlinks built into these. So if I click, say, on item 3A, it will take me down in the report, at least on my computer it does. It's not doing it here. Anyway, it may be the way I loaded this PDF, but usually it will take you right down into the report where you want to go. But we were not going to do this. So then there's a whole areas not inspected, please read. Every report has this, and it's basically their cover. Have you guys ever heard CYA, cover your assets? They're basically, we're not doing this, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. And I think it's important, especially if you're working with a first-time seller or a first-time buyer, to talk about these limitations on the report. They talk here about personal property and that they're not really inspecting a roof and they're not going to go where they can't get underneath. So it's worth looking at that. So then they get into section 1. And almost all of the reports separate out section 1 from section 2. There are some pest inspectors where they jumble the section 1 and section 2 together, but they still identify them. But in this company's report, they've distinguished section 1 items with the number 1, and they will give you a description of each one. So what's really cool is, and I don't know if this is going to work. It doesn't look like it's going to work in this view. I wonder if I can download it. Anyway, what we can do is we can jump in these blue links. We should be able to jump down to photo 1 or estimated cost, but you need to actually download the PDF. I'm looking at the PDF in a non-downloaded version. Let's see what happens. Let's see if I can easily download it and open it. Let's just see, guys. Ooh. So I'm supposedly downloaded now. We'll see what happens. Can I do it now? So item 1A, yes, it works now. So for any of these items, if I click the number here, it'll show me the chart at the top. So if I click the actual item, it'll show me my map again. So I can quickly see where 1A is. So 1A is on the right-hand side of the structure at the back right. 1A is in the corner here. It's in the middle there. It's in this corner. 1A is all over the place. It's over here, right? And also, I can click on photo 1 and it'll show me a picture. And I can go right to the estimated cost. All of these pest inspection companies will provide an estimate to remediate or fix items they identify as section 1. And they will provide an estimate for items they think they can fix of section 2 as well, if it's in their line of work. Oftentimes, they won't give a bid, and we'll look at that later on. So what are they saying in 1A? The barge rafter, as indicated on the diagram, are damaged by fungus. The contributing moisture source appears to be exposure to the weather. So barge rafter, what the heck is a barge rafter? So you can click on the photo. Here is our photo. And we can see that the barge rafter is an element of the roofing. It's at the top of the house. It's one of these pieces of wood here. And you see how black it is, how it's disengaged there, all that stuff, right? So that is what a barge rafter is. So all the photos are at the bottom. So now we go back to where we were. We saw the picture of it. And they provide for everything they call out, guys. They make a recommendation. So what are they saying here? Remove and replace a section of the damaged barge rafter to correct the condition. The bid includes the repair of the roof covering if it's disturbed by the repairs. If the existing gutters need to be removed to do the repairs, then that includes the reinstallation of the original gutters. If the gutters are so badly damaged that new gutters are needed, that's going to cost more. Right? And then they say again, section 1 item. Okay. Now, well, how much is this going to cost? How much are they bidding for this? What are they going to charge your client for this? We jump right down to estimated cost. At least we're going to try. Maybe we're not going to jump. There it is. 1A, $2,375. That's a lot of money. All right, let's keep going. So then we look at 1B. The fascia has been damaged by fungus where indicated on the diagram. The contributing moisture source appears to have been caused by a failure of the roof covering and or exposure to weather. Fascia, what the heck is fascia? So let's click on picture 2. And it is showing a different picture that looks just like the picture over there. Now, does anyone have a guess? And you can put it in chat or you can just come off mute of how you'd figure out which of these boards is fascia and which of these is a barge rafter. How would you do it? How would you find out? Because there's no arrow pointing to which one. Then the two pictures, 1 and 2, look exactly the same. Any guesses?
But it's harder to fix. So you have to really.
Well, one thing you could do is go to Google, right? If you go to Mr. Google,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not on my computer today, so. And you could simply ask Mr. Google, what is
Oh. That's fine.
a barge rafter? A barge rafter is the outermost rafter at the gable end of a roof. Essentially, the end rafter that extends past the wall of the building, creating a roof overhang and often covered by a decorative board called a barge board to protect the exposed rafter ends. Primarily used to support the roof edge and can add aesthetic appeal. So here's your barge rafter. So if we go back, these are our barge rafters right here. All right, let's keep going because we can get caught up in these definitions. But there's no reason why you shouldn't know what you're talking about when you're meeting with your buyer or seller and be able to go over these reports with them. Now, of course, it is not your job to explain the reports to your buyers. It's more so you can understand what you're looking at as good agents. Remember that the inspectors should always stand behind their reports, and you want to be able to always go back to the inspector and ask any questions you like anytime you're working with a client that is looking at a report from a third party. So if you don't understand something, you want to get that company that did the report back into a conversation with you about it. Then we have an estimate for this. They say remove and replace the damaged fascia to correct the condition. And then it says almost the same thing as the first one. And we can jump down right away and we can see what it is. 1B, $1,400 more right here. Okay, sorry. So let's go back up again and let's keep going. So then we got 1C. The roof sheathing has been damaged by fungus where indicated on the diagram. And this, if we look at picture 3, we'll see it looks like picture 1 and 2. It's just a different corner or it's a different scenario. So this could be the roof sheathing here. And it also needs to be repaired. So they reported on 3 different pieces that need to be repaired in 1A, 2, and 1AB, 1A, B, and C. And they've also pointed out for all of them in the picture where they see the damage. So the picture is just one of the damaged sides, right? 1B, 1C, they're all repeated here. So that means this roof is damaged on all these places, right? So the same thing, and they're going to give you an estimated cost on the bottom. Then they talk about the trim. This is the siding of the house, and that's number 1D. 1E on the next page, these are all section 1. The window jambs have been damaged by fungus at the area indicated on the diagram. So now we're talking about photo number 5. And so they've got a picture of the window trim being damaged. And they're talking about this stuff and this here. It's too soft. You shouldn't be able to poke it and have it break out. And a similar thing happening over here. Okay, so what we're talking about here is another bid to remove and fix the damaged wood. Window sash at the side is damaged. Okay, then we have 1G. The basement door and framing have been damaged by fungus at the rear. The contributing moisture source cease. So there's 3 pictures, 7, 8, and 9 for the basement door and framing. So this is picture 7, and you can see the bottom of the door. Look at how bad that is. 7, 8, and 9, the damage to the door. 10 is a different issue. Let's see what 10 is. It looks the same, but it's different. So what is 10? Photo 10 is up here. The door sill and jamb was found to be fungus damaged, and that's photo 10. And they're providing bids all the way along for all these things. The hardwood flooring at the front bedroom has been damaged. So this is an interior problem. So this is photo number 11, and they went to the side of the hardwood floor at the and that's on the floor, and you can see it's all damaged here. So that's something they're noting. Now just take a look at picture 12, because we're going to do that next. Look at this. So why is that picture there underneath the house? Well, that's the next thing, I think. Let's see. Photo 12, where is it? Photo 10, photo 11. Photo 12 is down lower. Photo 12, I'm jumping ahead, is in section 3, I think. Here it is. Further inspection items. We were unable to inspect a portion of the interior of the basement due to stored personal property. And that was the picture we just saw. So you can see how this is not good, right? Because if you're representing the seller, you don't ever want to have this on your report. You want to show a pest report that it was able to look at everything that could be looked at. So, you know, you'd want to bring the inspector back out. But of course, if you bring the inspector back out, they'll charge you more money. So this is something that you're going to want to be thoughtful about when you're ordering a pest inspection on behalf of your client. Okay, let's go back up to where we were. So there were all these section 1 things. Let's just quickly go over some of the other ones. We talked about there's also the hardwood flooring. Then there's some stuff underneath the house. The siding, floor joist, rim joist, and framing have been damaged, and subterranean termites are indicated. This is photos 16, 17, and 18. So how do we know that there are termites? The way we know is these termites leave trails. So let's see if we can see them. Photos 16, 17, and 18. So this is some under the house crap, garbage. Here's some more. And then here's another picture, which is a little out of focus. But very often you'll see these things, these lines, and they're indicative of termite trails. But they often will see the actual bugs, the inspectors. They're quite brave. I would not want to go underneath a house where all the bugs are, but they do that. That's why they wear the spacesuits. If you ever go on a pest inspection and they go underneath the house, and your good home inspectors will do it too, they put on like a spacesuit because they don't want to get anything on themselves and no one knows, you know, they want to keep safe and clean. So anyway, we've seen these problems here, and they've got an estimate for dealing with the termites. And these are subterranean termites, which is good. It means they can spray. They don't need to tent the house. And this was, I think, 1J 2780. Let's see. Was that 1J we just did? I think so. Yeah, 2780. Then 1K. Now, when you start getting to stuff in bathrooms, that's where the money starts getting really high. Water has gotten underneath the floor covering, adjacent to the bathtub in the front hall bathroom. This has caused fungus and moisture damage to the subfloor extending under the bathroom tub. This is a big deal. If you've got water underneath your bathroom, damaging the wood in these 2 places, very often you have to replace the entire flooring in the bathroom and redo new subflooring. And now we're getting into a lot of money. And the bid for this is $10,000. Now, this is 3 years ago, guys. This same job today might be bid $15,000 because prices have only gone up for this stuff, right? So at the end of the day, when we finish looking at all these section 1 items, the bid is $22,000. That's a lot of money. Anything over about $5,000, you don't want to see on a pest report. Now, you remember I was telling you before about section 2 items. Let's just go back and look at some of the section 2 items. Again, section 2 are items that are going to cause problems in the future if you don't deal with them. Number 2A, minor stress cracks were noted in the exterior stucco as indicated on the diagram. And it says seal all the cracks. And the thing about this is stucco is notorious for cracking. This home has exterior stucco. It's not a wood frame or it's not a wood exterior or aluminum or a brick. It is actual stucco. And stucco is notorious for cracking. But most cracking is really, really like a thin crack, like it's not wide at all. But it still can let moisture in. And if moisture can get in, that can damage the wood behind it. So that's why they're recommending you attend to it. You see this a lot because you see this a lot on homes with stucco exteriors, even if the home is immaculate, because the inspector isn't doing a magnifying glass examination of the exterior. So all they need to do is find one little crack and they will note this. And we don't, it's probably pretty minor, but it's still there. And, you want to take a look at it with your client and see that, how you want to manage it. It says here, seal all cracks that are wider than 1/16 of an inch. So he must have seen some, because if they were less than 1/16 of an inch, he probably would not have called it at all. Cracked tiles were noted in the rear hall bathroom. Cracked tiles are not in and of themselves an immediate problem. It's only a problem if water gets through the cracks and damages the floor underneath. That's why it's a section 2 item. There is cellulose debris in contact with the substructure area. You will see this on almost every pest report you see. And what are we talking about here? There's no picture of it, but they're giving you a bid of $650, I think. Was that the right one? 2D? Let me just see. Let me make sure I showed you went to the right one. So what happens is, in the course of a house's history, one that has a subfloor, sorry, I'm not on my computer, so things aren't going as quickly as I want. The cellulose debris is 2C, sorry. Let's go take a look at 2C. 2C is $250. So basically what they are going to do is have their guy go underneath the house and take away all the old pieces of wood and all the old, they call it cellulose debris, all the old degradable, the stuff that will decompose from underneath the house, because it is a source of food for termites. So you don't want to have termite food underneath the house. And that's why they recommend removing it. Now, $250 is like maybe what? An hour and a half, 2 hours of labor. Could your handyman do it for cheaper? Maybe. You don't necessarily need to hire a pest inspection company to remediate clear the cellulose debris under the house. But they bid it. They always bid it. All right. But you're going to see it all the time. But I don't recommend leaving it alone because as I said, it's termite food. It's potentially going to attract termites. But it's 2C. It's called 2C. It's called a section 2 item is what I'm saying, not the C part, the 2 part. It's a section 2 item. So that means there is always a concern that this will be a problem in the future, right? 2D, there are form boards in contact with the substructure area. So this is a different kind of problem underneath the house of a different material, but it is going to potentially be a food for termites too. So they've separated that out. 2E, there's a plumbing leak at the front hall bathroom toilet drain. Well, we never want that, but it's bad when they find that underneath the house. And your home inspector should see this too. But why is it on the pest report? Because if you have moisture falling into the sub area, again, it creates an environment where you could have wood damage. Perhaps there's a chance that moisture will get in contact with the wood and damage it, right? So that's why it's here. 2F, the exterior siding is actually missing in a location. And we're thinking to ourselves, we're going to go to see the house tomorrow. We want to point this out to our client. We go back up to the top and we see where 2F is. Where is there missing siding? Here. This is at the back porch or the back exterior. It's probably a porch. So if I'm there with my client, I'm gonna go show them this, right? Let's see. Again, siding was missing, but you don't want to leave it unattended to. Another common thing you see in section 2 is 2G, vegetation in contact with the structure. You don't want vegetation up against the side of your structure going above the foundation cement line, where the cement line, where it turns into wood above. Most modern concrete foundations, you'll see the cement above the ground, 2, 6, 8 inches before you start seeing the actual wood structure or the siding. But if you have shrubberies that is up against it, that creates an easy way for insects to go from the shrubbery onto the wood. And now they always recommend this be dealt with. And they'll vary their price depending on 2G. They'll vary the price if they bid it at all, depending on how much they see. Now, let's look at this pricing for these all these items under section 2. Notice they only put a price on 2 of them. In 4 of them, they said owner. They think this is a homeowner's responsibility to do themselves. Then they said other trade for 2E. They said other trade for 2E. Let's just see what 2E was. I'm jumping back up. 2E was, 2E was plumbing leak. Right. They're recommending you get a plumber to fix the plumbing leak. It makes perfect sense, right? So by going through this, we have seen the section 1 items, which are active damaged wood or dry rotted or wood that has or termites, active damaged wood or termites. We have seen the section 2 items on this report that are items that if they are not attended to will lead to these problems. And we've also looked at item 3s, which are future inspection items, which we don't ever want to see because we want to be able to know that the pest inspector was able to do their job to the extent that they could. Now, one of the things to remember is that pest inspections are non-invasive. Non-invasive. What do we mean by non-invasive? We mean that they are not going to tear things up to take a look at the they're not going to tear up the house to look behind the walls. They're not going to damage anything even temporarily or uninstall anything or take anything apart to get to things. So I'm talking about more than personal property here. Let's suppose you have a water heater, an old style water heater, not a tankless, big tank in a closet. Say it's in a closet at the back of the house. The inspector is not going to remove the water heater to look and see what's going on the back wall behind the water heater. And the same with the furnace or any appliances, right? So these, just like your home inspections, are non-invasive. Now, the reason this is even more important with pest inspections is because sometimes you have a situation where they find some damage to the exterior stucco and they say, hey, we found this damage. We are bidding, I don't know, $3,000 to fix the damage. But in order to fix the damage, we have to remove the stucco around it. And there is a danger that when we remove the stucco around it, that the problem is actually deeper than what we can see, in which case we'll issue you a new report and charge you more money to fix all the damage that's hidden. And I've had situations in my career where this actually happened. Looked like a $3,000 job, but when they started removing stucco and removing more, suddenly the whole side of the house needs to have a new structure and have all the wood replaced because the damage is far more extensive. So when you're examining pest reports, keep that in mind, that they are only inspecting what they can see, and there's always a potential that the damage is worse than it appears. Does anyone have any questions? I want to spend a little bit of time then, since there are no questions, I want to spend pest inspection companies out there. And those companies sometimes do construction, and sometimes they just do inspections and just the work involved with remediating the property. The typical fees for these inspections nowadays runs, depends on the size of the property. Condos versus houses versus big houses. I just did one for a client. I just ordered one for a client in San Leandro, and it cost $500 for about a 1,500 square foot house, interior and exterior. And there were no additional structures. There were no detached garages or anything like that. And that's pretty typical under 2,000 square feet, right? About $500 for the inspection and the report. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that when you are representing a seller or a buyer, some of the better inspection companies for pest work, as with home inspections, they book up long in advance. This morning, I was looking to order a pest inspection, and I went to one of the more popular companies' website, and they are booking now for the second week of March. So they have nothing this week. They have nothing next week. The first availability they have is Wednesday of the following week. So if you are representing a buyer, and this is true for any and all inspections you want to do, if you are representing a buyer and you're going to be writing an offer with a contingency in it, you might want to order those inspections before your offer is even accepted, so that you have a shot at getting it done in a good time frame, especially if you have a favorite company that is very popular that you want to use. If you're representing a seller, I recommend ordering the inspections enough in advance of when you go on the market so that it does not become a glaring omission from your disclosure package, because it's going to not be coming until you've been on the market a week or two. It's just a more professional way to go. The other thing I wanted to say about pest inspection pricing, the other thing I want to say about that is I just want to go back to this report, if I may, for just a minute. 1 second. So when we looked at our report, let me see if I can figure out how to get to it, because I'm not in my world. Let me just see. What's this? Let's see if I can do it. Maybe not do it, but you might remember when we were looking at the actual report, when we were looking at the actual report, you might recall that well, what's this? Let me just see. There we go. When we were looking at this report, I hope you guys can see this. We went down to the pricing. I think this is another important thing to think about with pest reports. This pricing. And another 900, making it basically 23,000 for the section 2 that they bid on. Now, it has been my experience, and that of many of the people that I work with, our experience as realtors, that pest inspection companies sometimes bid a lot more. They have an estimate for the work that is usually a lot higher than what you could get it done by a general contractor or by another third party who might. Some pest companies rely on the revenue they get from the work much more than the money they get from doing the inspections. And if a seller hires a pest company and a pest company has identified the work to be done, it is often a lot easier simply to let that company do the work and not go try to find another person to do it. There is also a marketing reason why listing agents like to have the pest companies do the work instead of going out to a third party. If you're a listing agent and a pest company finds problems, like on this report, if they come in and remediate it and fix it, they will issue a report for you that says, we have fixed these things. And that is a very powerful marketing tool for your disclosure package. If you have a third party come in and do it, the pest companies usually will not come back. Maybe they will for a fee, but they will usually not come back. Many of them have a policy. We will not verify other people's work. We'll only verify our own work. So when you're marketing a property, it's really nice to have a report from a pest company that shows that things have been dealt with. And there's a special name for those reports. They're called clearance reports. So sometimes when you're looking at a disclosure package, you will see the original report and you will see something called a clearance report. And that means the pest company has come out and done the work that they had recommended be done, and they are signing off on it. The other thing that I think it's really important to talk about is that no inspector always sees everything there is to see. No inspector always sees everything there is to see. I had a situation on a deal earlier in 2024, last year, where I did a pest inspection and my seller agreed to clear everything on the pest report, and they did, and we had a clearance report. We got into contact with a buyer who did their own pest inspection and found items that were not found by the inspector for my seller. And so one of the reasons that can happen is that the time goes by. No condition on a house stays the same. Over time, things happen. Rains come and go, appliances break down and everything. So when we teach about home inspection and pest inspection reports and how to read a disclosure package, we always talk about how important it is to look at the date of the report. And if the report is more than a month or 2 or 3 old, then you almost always want to do your own new report anyway, because the reliability of that original report may be sacrificed. And so when the buyers of this property that I had sold did their own inspection report, they found stuff. And, I was working with a great pest company. They came out and remediated it at no cost. One argument was that it wasn't there when they were there. And I think there was some minor little thing that wasn't visible when they were there. And anyway, it was no problem. It didn't hold up the deal or anything. We got it all fixed and everything. But that sort of thing will happen too, and then, of course, you have different inspectors of quality, right? There's always going to be the issue of the quality of the inspector. And that's why over the years, I've developed favorite inspectors that I like to work with. So, all right. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, Stephen. Yeah, I do have a question.
Awesome.
Yeah, so when you mentioned plumbing leak in a report, right? So
Yeah.
does the inspector also mention any damage to the subflow caused by that leak?
He didn't find any, or else he would. He didn't note it because he didn't see anything.
Okay. And the other question is, what's the difference between you said there were different inspections done, right? One is re-inspection and one is a supplementary report.
Yes. So there's three types of report. Let me just show you on the. Do you guys see the screen with the pricing on it? Amberine, do you see the screen with the pricing? Am I sharing?
No.
Now do you see it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So right at the top of the report, they tell you what kind of report it is. So in this case, it is a complete report.
Okay.
And there are three other types of reports they might give you. One is a limited report where they're only, by definition, by contract, they're only going to one area. Like, for example, the detached garage would be a limited report. A supplemental is what you get when they come out a second time to do further inspection. You know that part of the basement that had all those buckets that we saw requiring further inspection? If the company that ordered this inspection had ordered them to come back out to after they removed all that personal property, that would be a supplemental.
Okay. And the reinspection is the last one?
Reinspection is when they go back out to look at a place they've already inspected before. I don't see that too much. That may be what ends up what I'm calling a clearance report, but I'm not 100% sure. It could very well be they check that box when they do a clearance report. When they go back out and fix something, they inspect to make sure it's done. That may be. But they may also be doing a reinspection because they've been asked to look at something again and do a different a new evaluation of it.
Got
I
it.
don't see it that much.
Got it. Thank you.
I think there was a question in chat. Let me just see. Phil had a question in chat. Vendors I would recommend against. His question in chat is, are there any vendors you would recommend against? Great question. So do you think I have any idea how to? There we go. So recommend against, there is certainly a range of inspectors, and it follows the basic principle of you get what you pay for. The companies you can tell the company is liked by realtors if they're always busy and you can't get an appointment for 2 weeks. But sometimes that has to do with how pricey they are. And there is a bit of a local market to this. Like if you are doing an inspection in Concord or, Brentwood in Eastern Contra Costa County, way out east, you're not going to use a guy who does most of his work or a company that does most of their work on the peninsula or in the South Bay. I would also note that just like with home inspection companies, the quality of the inspectors in shops that hire a lot of inspectors, and in this example is a good one. This inspection report you see on the screen is from a company called HomeGuard. And HomeGuard does home inspections, pest inspections, roof inspections. They're a very big player in the inspection market. They are a shop, that's what they do, and they're not specialists in pest or home or roof, but they do all three of them, and you can buy group packages. Very popular, very inexpensive. They're able to use economies of scale, and they hire inspectors to do the inspections for them. And there are some people who feel that companies like this that are less expensive hire less experienced inspectors who may miss things, and they don't like to use companies that operate like this. My recommendation is that you work with inspectors who your colleagues and you've had personal experience with, or that your colleagues know and trust. But ultimately, if you're looking, some of your clients will be very sensitive to price. And if HomeGuard bids $500 and your guy is $700, your client may say, I only want to spend $500. And, it's their call. They're the ones who are paying for it. By the way, please remind your buyers that if they're buying inspections, that those are non-refundable. Inspections are non-refundable because they're third parties. They have nothing to do with the purchase agreement with the seller, and they need to be reminded of that. But anyway, that's a bit of an aside. So the answer to your question, Phil, is no. I don't really have anyone I don't recommend you use, but it is important that you ask around and know who's well popular in your area where you're selling, because as I said, it will vary geographically. Right. Let's see. Any other questions? You're welcome, Phil. Does anyone else have any other questions? All right. Well, that's all I had on this. I hope this has been helpful to you. And if anyone thinks of any questions later, you know where to reach me, or you should know where to reach me. I'll put it into chat. You can reach me at my, I'm going to put my email address in the chat if I can type on this computer. I'm not on my home computer, so everything is a little bit different. Oops, wrong one. I gave you the wrong email address, PC. Else. Yeah, there. I just put my email address. If you don't already have it, you can email me there with any questions you have. And I appreciate you guys checking this out. And if you want to watch it again, it's on my YouTube channel. Thank you, anyone on YouTube watching it at any time. And I'll have a fresh new class next week. So thanks, everybody.